thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here, Steve and Raj, and nice to see Marcel as well. So, as well as Pastor Sewell. So, it's a real pleasure to be here. And I'll just call up some slides here. My focus a little bit here today is a little bit narrower. Let's see if I can do this. Is that showing pretty well?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Wonderful, thank you. So Michigan fair elections.
There's a thing on the middle of the screen says that's blocking it. Yeah, click continue to share. There we go. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
That helps me too, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, so Michigan Fair Elections Institute is a 501c3, which means it's a charitable nonprofit organization. And then I also chair Pure Integrity Michigan Elections, which is a C4, which is also a nonprofit organization. What we basically are is an organization in Michigan. We started PIME in 2021, January, after the 2020 election. And then Cleta Mitchell asked me if I would begin local task forces. And so we gave birth then to Michigan Fair Elections. And so we have about half of Michigan's counties now have task forces for Michigan Fair Elections. And people in our organization come from all walks of life, which I've discovered is a huge asset, because we have people that are accountants, and we have people that are analysts, and we have people that are that have a high school education that can look at things from a very realistic perspective. So it's a real blessing. And our mission is to restore integrity to Michigan's elections. Very simple and clear. We focus on two pillars, and those make us stronger and give us more agility. Really, the focus is then on election. Oops, whoa, where am I going? I'm sorry. Educational outreach and election oversight. And I'll try to use a different button here. So our focus for 2025 is to serve as a think tank for election integrity. And we've been assisting state legislative committees, election integrity, oversight, and appropriations as they're working in Michigan. And we're open to working with anyone. It's just that those folks are most interested in election integrity. We're focusing on bridging the state to the federal agencies now, because Michigan, having Democrat governor and Senate, aren't interested in looking at tightening up election security. So, but the federal government is now, thankfully. So that's a great opportunity. And we're considered a stakeholder in the legislative position, so that legislators look to us to see what our position is. As far as party parity, we just finished a report, and it occurred to me I should probably say what it is. Parity means having equal numbers and between Republicans and Democrats as election workers. And the United States is a two-party system. And it was designed later on, not originally, but based on the founders' principle of checks and balances. And checks and balances are essential in keeping not only our government fair and honest and listening to the people, but also our elections need checks and balances. So the checks and balances that we have in our elections are basically between the two major parties, the Democrat and Republican parties. You combine that with transparency and then with citizen participation, and you have the ability for citizens to self-govern, actually. And without that, we could easily become like other countries where you're run by bureaucrats or worse, by people that are tyrants. So we recently completed a party parity analysis. We looking at the election inspector practices in Michigan's municipalities. So we have two laws specifically relating to party parity in Michigan, and those are here in the slide. But what we found was really disturbing. For example, Detroit had 72% Democrats to 12% Republicans. And just let me emphasize, the law requires the clerks, as nearly as possible, to have 50-50 representation. 50-50, not 70-12, not Ann Arbor, which is 80-19 approximately. And Grand Rapids was 70%, 26%. Warren not as bad, but still way out of balance at 65-32. You have Dearborn at 61-21 and Lansing at 62-36. As a matter of fact, the only township that reached parity was Sterling Heights, the only municipality that we FOIA'd. And it's interesting to note that there was no municipality in which the Republicans were overweighted or overrepresented. So if you take a look at what that looks like from a chart basis, you have the Reds being completely outnumbered, other than in Sterling Heights, which was perfect parity. So it can be done for those municipalities that say, for example, that they don't have constituents that are Republicans, so they can't hire them. That's really, it's hogwash, because you don't have to hire from your own municipality. Anybody from any county can work in any of these municipalities as long as they're not on that ballot. So here it is pictured here. And this is interesting because transparency issues are equally important in the checks and balances process. We have to be able to get this information. And when we FOIA'd these municipalities, you can see that Ann Arbor Township, Dearborn, Lansing, and Sterling Heights were well within the 24-day federal requirement of answering our FOIA request. The FOIA request was simple. How many Republicans and how many Democrats did you hire as poll workers, and what were their names? And information so we could check them out. So here you have Detroit that took 115 days, and Grand Rapids came through at 175 days only when we were about to publish the report, and our clerk advocate in Kent County went in and walked through with them what the issues were, and wanted to know why they were not fulfilling our FOIAs after numerous requests on our part. So, and then Warren's down there at 86 days. So if you compare, interestingly, you compare the imbalances with the length of time that it took them to reply to our FOIA requests, there is quite a correlation in general. Sterling Heights, for example, which was in perfect parity, replied within 7 days. And then you have Dearborn as an exception. They replied the same day, although they were out of balance. So they decided to be forthright about it, I guess. So I thought this was pretty interesting here. And then another way of looking at it too is if people try to say, well, it's something new, we're just dealing with it. That's just not accurate. We then compiled data from 2020, 2022, and 2024 regarding Detroit. And you can see here that it has been a consistent pattern of overrepresentation of Democrats. And the yellow line is most interesting, or as interesting, because those are people that shouldn't be there. The law requires parity between the two major parties. And that's what the law says, as nearly as possible. So these people that were yellow, the yellowed column, what they were is people that said they were non-affiliated with a party, or they left the form blank. And either way, they should not have been hired. Interestingly enough, too, of the 144 Democrats who were hired into Detroit that we checked, 133 of them had voted in Democrat primaries. So you have to question whether they were truly Republicans. So, oops, I don't mean to have that in there. Another pushback that we sometimes get is that, well, the Republican Party or nonprofit organizations like ours didn't get them enough applicants. Well, we started 8 weeks before the election. We realized, this is the 2024 election, we realized that Detroit was in trouble. So we started an intense campaign to recruit people, and we had over 1,000 who signed up as interested. And then we confirmed with documented proof that 437 of those did get their applications in, and sent proof to MFEI around 234. Of those, it boils down to that only 180 were hired and 895 were not hired. And throughout the process, as an example, Pastor Reband, Ralph, called 37 times asking for them to please consider his application and was told repeatedly that there were no openings. Finally, though, after the 37th call, he did receive a position. So there is hope, but that's where persistence really pays. So the question of what you can do is the obvious answer question here. And anyone who's interested should really think about becoming a poll worker. And you can sign up to work in Detroit's August primary. And I should mention the poll workers are paid. They're paid very well sometimes. It's a long day, but they're paid very well in Detroit. So you can sign up at pureintegritymichiganelections.org, and off to the right is where you would go. It's the second panel down right after our name. Sign up to be a poll worker, click that button, and you'll be put through to an application, as well as anybody who can help you. And I would really ask people subscribe to our free newsletter. That'll keep you updated on what's going on with elections in the state of Michigan. And every Thursday, we have a News at Noon program. I'd love to have all the folks on this call join. We have a lot of talented speakers from all walks of life talking about what they've been working on and what the issues and opportunities are. And some of our local opportunities for volunteering we have our program is called Souls to the Rolls, and this is a voter roll hygiene program, from analyzing the voter rolls to knocking on doors to working with the clerks to get ineligible folks off the voter rolls. We have a legislative committee that does a terrific analysis of the bills. They testify up at the hearings, and they serve as advisors to the legislators. And we have a terrific communications team as well that is working on they take the data that we find and put it into articles so we can communicate what this data means. And we have a wonderful data evaluation of election processes team. They look they dig deep into the data and analyze things like the voter roll issues that Pastor Sewell and Raj have already mentioned here today. So then we have social media, we have researchers, we have lots of different opportunities. So basically, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And the nature of our republic is such that everybody must do something, because this is a self-government situation that we have. And unless we take control of our government and become involved, other people will do that for us, and we might not like their decisions. So thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much, and we appreciate everything you're doing in Michigan.
Thank you.